everyone, and welcome to the virtual session, Diversify Your Tech Stack. My name is Samara Lynn. I'm a tech journalist, and I am delighted to moderate this session. Our panelists today include Jennifer Gomez. She's the co-founder and chief marketing officer of oneKIN, a curated e-commerce marketplace that's soon launching a live stream shopping app. oneKIN is focused on solopreneurs, micro merchants, and mom and pop outlets within the retail industry. We also have Nadiyah Johnson. She's the CEO and founder of Jet Constellations and Milky Tech Hub. Jet Constellations is a software company focused on promoting STEM education in Milwaukee and offers consultations for tech-oriented startups, and also works to build a nurturing ecosystem of techies and entrepreneurs. Nadiyah is also working to rebrand Milwaukee as the Milky Way, a tech hub representative of Milwaukee's diversity. Ladies, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Oh, great. Well, let's get started. I think what we want to do is get some background information first on both of you. Maybe Nadiyah, you can kick us off. Maybe describe your business, when you launched, what motivated you.
Yeah, so I started Jet Constellations late 2017, and it was really to address some of the things I was observing in my local community, which was a lack of prioritization in Milwaukee's tech ecosystem. I started to see that there were different groups coming together to shape this narrative that Milwaukee was a tech hub, but not necessarily prioritizing Black and Brown individuals in this narrative. So I started Jet Constellations to ensure that Black and Brown people in my community had the access, the resource, and the opportunity to thrive in tech, whether that be workforce, entrepreneurship, or just, grow in community. And so Jet Constellations right now is a software company. We build custom apps, but we have our social impact arm called the Milky Tech Hub, which is by far the most community-facing portion of our organization. And that aims to sort of create this narrative where Milwaukee is the next Black tech mecca, if you will.
Wonderful. Awesome. And Jennifer, same thing for you. Describe what you're doing with oneKIN, when you launched, and what motivated you to launch your business.
I love that, Nadiyah, and I speak the same language. Literally, we launched back in 2016, really as a response to a lot of the social inequities we had observed in our communities, right, in Black and Brown communities. And it really was catalyzed by the string of murders that, from police brutality that we had seen. Eric Gardner, Mike Brown, Tamir Rice, and countless others, and seeing socioeconomic or economic empowerment really as a tool to start addressing some of those issues that plague these demographics. So we actually started off as a research company or a think tank, if you will, really, leaning into research and understanding what the pain points for small businesses were, and then working with various economic development corporations, SBAs, to try to inform policy to start to catalyze socioeconomic change by supporting those small businesses. And in our thesis is always, communities flourish when small businesses flourish. So that research background was really our first step to that. Then we found e-commerce and retail technology specifically to be a great kind of entry point into addressing some of those needs that we found through all of our research. And so that resulted in our first proof of concept, our first product, which was a curated online marketplace for BIPOC-owned businesses, and as a way to not only be a digital distribution channel for them in a centralized and curated kind of environment, but also a way to amplify their stories and provide more marketing and PR resources to them, which is always a pain point as well. Later, that product and all the learnings informed our latest product, which Samara, you mentioned, oneKIN Live, which is a live stream shopping app that'll really enable merchants, right, small businesses across the country to natively engage with their small business, with their customers, sell their products, right? And customers will have the opportunity to chat with merchants and to purchase from them seamlessly, all in their app in one experience. So really think of, I love to say, and I might get dated here, but think of a modern day QVC, right? Modern day AI powered QVC that meets, the e-commerce and kind of broad reach of an Amazon.
And QVC is not dated, for the record. But it's a great analogy.
Well, yeah, the technology is still pretty nascent, at least in the US. It's obviously exploding in China for years to come, but we really find kind of pain points that small businesses experience and try to create cost-effective tech solutions to help them compete in the digital landscape, grow their businesses, and then have community level impact.
That's interesting, because I think what makes this session so interesting is that both of you have businesses that help other businesses. So Jennifer, you just kind of explained how oneKIN does that. Nadiyah, maybe you can just share with the audience, how does your business, Jet Constellations, help other businesses?
Absolutely. Right off the bat, I noticed that within our ecosystem locally here in Milwaukee, there were so many incredible Black and Brown businesses. They were not tech enabled. They didn't know how to leverage technology to build out their e-commerce sites. They didn't know how to leverage technology to build up their SEO. And Jet Constellations is that solution, right? And so the goal here is to be this resource hub for different companies to be able to start or create a website, or leverage SEO, or build out an e-commerce website, right? We're here to help these maybe retail companies or companies that aren't necessarily tech companies become tech enabled, become tech adjacent, if you will.
That's really interesting. When we talk about diversifying your tech stack, I think the way we're defining tech stack is the services, the partnerships that a small business entrepreneur needs to succeed. With that said, which services would each of you think the average small business would need to succeed? And Nadiyah, maybe you can start off with that.
Yeah, there are so many different services and platforms that are in my, what I like to call, tech toolkit. I like to sort of break it down like finance, branding, and then just growth. And the finance, I think every small business needs to have an accounting software. I use QuickBooks. And let's say the branding space, I think Canva is just an incredibly useful tool. And when I think about just growth in general, just having a customer relationship management tool like Salesforce, or even just MailChimp, right? Being able to communicate out to your base and have that customer segmentation, I think is just so critical in order to really grow your base and to really build that brand that speaks to growth.
Gotcha. And Jennifer, same thing. What should be in a small business entrepreneur's arsenal as far as partners, services, vendors?
Yeah, I would second a lot of the ones that Nadiyah offered. I as a data person, I also have to say data. It is so important for all of us or small businesses to be able to to familiarize themselves and integrate that into their business. It's the best way to understand, listen to your customer and understand what their needs are. Listen to the market and see how it's changing. Listen to how your marketing campaigns or your marketing strategies are performing, and then let those learnings inform, what you do next. So, I'm a big advocate of everything free 99, and, Google, the Google suite really offers everything from Google Analytics to SEO, the Search Console. There are a lot of resources, tech tools that you can use to better kind of get a pulse on how your business is doing. And that's critical. I see the next piece. Nadiyah, you mentioned so many, but I also think about, not everyone's tech stack is going to look the same. And I think it's very easy to get excited, right? Or get FOMO about, what your tech stack should look like. The reality is it probably is going to start simple at the beginning. Your micro merchants or small businesses, solopreneurs, you don't have the bandwidth, you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of it will be trial and error. So your tech stack will look different when you start. And, as you progress as a business, but I would say financials, certainly, a CRM, very important. HubSpot has a free one. Email like all of your marketing stack, right? Content creation tech stacks. I like what Nadiyah said about compartmentalizing them, right? I do the same thing. And if it applies to your business, you may have a tech stack for HR, right? Your
Right.
payroll, your, how you process obviously that's payroll payments, but all of your HR needs, you may have a tech stack for security, right? Especially if you're a cloud-based company or a tech company, revenue, right? All the, again, financials, right? And what are you using to monitor cash flow and to payment. So, right, it's if you think about it, it's all the tools that'll help automate a lot of the operational lift in your business, because you don't have, all the time, all the resources and all the hands to really help run and grow your business.
And one thing I'd love to just add to that, yes, to everything Jennifer just said, I think that it's important to recognize that success leaves clues. And so what I would do if I were just starting out is take a look at different companies that are doing really well. For instance, if it were me, I'd be looking at Blavity or Afrotech, right? And I would go to their site, and there's this really cool tool that I encourage people to install, a Google Chrome extension called What Runs. If you install that extension and then go to whatever website, you click What Runs, and it'll tell you everything that website is using, all the technology that website is using, right? And that'll give you hints and clues as to what you could possibly use for your company.
That's great advice from both of you. And, you both mentioned some of the essentials for a lot of, not just small business, but any business: CRM, HR, cybersecurity, financials. But, and when we're talking about diversifying the tech stack, we know all the big names out there. Intuit, you mentioned MailChimp, all the big players. And I think one of the greatest opportunities with businesses and startups by people of color is embracing other vendors and services run by people of color. So, maybe instead of a MailChimp, you could find a Black-owned, email marketing business or, a service.
Absolutely.
I think we should really delve into, can a Black-owned or a person of color owned small business be best served by a Black or Brown-owned service? What unique opportunities could that provide? Jennifer, what do you think about that?
Yes, most certainly. There are so many pros in working with, if you're a Black business and working with, a business that provides, a service that you need, right? That's Black owned. One is tone, right? Like the importance of knowing your target audience and being able to service them in the way that's valuable, in a way that they feel seen, and their issues are addressed. Because we can probably all name at the top of our heads companies who haven't had, who are addressing Black and Brown kind of consumers, right? But have no Black person at the table. And so it's like, everything from messaging and creative just seems inauthentic, right?
That's
and disingenuous.
A great point, because even huge corporations miss that
all the time, right?
Right.
But and the one thing that I would say across the board, though, is being able to effectively evaluate if that's the right company for you, right, or the right service, and that's just kind of across the board, because maybe although we'd love to support and patronize one another, maybe their service doesn't necessarily align with what you need, right? Maybe it's a need that could be addressed later on. Maybe they don't have the sufficient whatever it may be that you need for your business. So kind of leading with being very clear what your needs are and doing your research and understanding if that service offers what you need. But then, of course, like, as I mentioned, tone, cultural affinity, all those things are extremely, extremely important if you're a business of color and you're targeting other, like, a multicultural audience.
Great. Yep. Great points. And Nadiyah, same question. I mean, what are the advantages that you feel looking for partners in your business who are people of color, if as a Black or brown entrepreneur?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I think one of my actual like KPIs that I have for my company is, how many Black businesses am I working with? How many Black businesses am I supporting and are supporting my company? So it's a huge priority for me and my team, and it's not just because of the fact that working with Black and brown businesses, you're almost guaranteed a certain level of cultural acumen, right? But I think it also speaks to the value of ensuring that you're working toward driving down economic disparities. Mm-hmm. But I do think it's a both and situation, right? Because some of the items that I mentioned that's in my tech toolkit, I don't know that I mentioned a whole lot of Black-owned companies, because the reality is that big tech has a big problem when it comes to representation, when it comes to equity, when it comes to ownership. But I think that is so critical for us to be intentional about who and what companies we're leveraging, and to see if they have Black and brown folks that were let in on the ground floor when it was time to invest, have equity, right? And of course, there are some companies that are in tech that are owned by Black and brown people. I think about Calendly, which is a lifesaver. Calendly, I don't know how anybody makes it without Calendly these days, right? So I think it's just a both and, right? And to what Jennifer was saying earlier, we have to be intentional about who we're leveraging. And at the same time, we also have to be realistic that big tech has a representation problem right now.
And just to add to that too, I mean, I love that you mentioned Calendly. Undock is another amazing kind of scheduling, tech company Black owned. That is a great reference point. There are so many of us out here doing, building Black tech tools, building tools, I should say, and, the research is important, and also just talking to your peers, right? Talking to other co-founder or founders, other, tech entrepreneurs, and asking them what they use, right? What we've adopted also, and what we've learned so much, is our peers are often our biggest resources, right? And they're not so far removed from where we are. And so we're kind of learning in tandem and sharing resources, which is something that's extremely important. So a lot of those findings, right? A lot of those companies that you can discover will be from talking to your peers and sharing those resources.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest challenges for Black and brown entrepreneurs is finding other Black and brown entrepreneurs and services. I mean, there isn't like a big collective database. Black Enterprise might be something you want to look into, of, you could just say, hey, find me some Black or brown owned, email marketers. But how do you find these services, personally? And you mentioned a few, but are there any advice you can give anyone, in the audience who's watching, and say, hey, I want to use a Black woman owned, marketing service, like conferences or people you follow? What would you be advice on how to find these people, these businesses? And
yeah, I'm so glad that you asked the question, honestly. I have the privilege of working with a man named Rashawn Williams. He's a renowned venture capitalist, and he always talks about the need for having strong ecosystems. He says that when a young Black boy is, 5'9", 6 feet tall, and says that he's interested in basketball, right? We all know exactly what to do. There is a Black coach somewhere. We know who to call to get him enrolled in an after-school program. We know who to call when it comes to, getting recruiters to come to the game, things like that, right? That's an ecosystem. But what does it look like to have a similar model when it comes to finding tech services or finding individuals in tech that can help Black and brown people just to thrive. And I think that's really where tech hubs enter the room, right? I truly believe that more tech hubs are necessary so that Black and brown individuals have a resource space where they can go to. So my advice is to look up your local tech hub, your local Black brand tech hub, which more than likely exists, and tap into whatever resources they may have. I think also going to these conferences like AfroTech or leveraging organizations like maybe even Black Enterprise or there's just so many. Here in Milwaukee, we have MKE Black, a whole resource directory of all the Black businesses here in the city of Milwaukee, right? So these opportunities, these resources exist, but it's a matter of doing the research to tap in and connect.
Great, wonderful, great advice. And Jennifer, how would you advise our audience to how to find these resources?
I would agree completely. I mean, networking is so important at all these. Another conference that I would mention is Black Women Talk Tech. It's a great conference to meet other Black tech entrepreneurs, other amazing people, doing incredible things. Hubs are so huge, and oftentimes, look for digital communities, right? Black digital communities. There are tons of Slack channels. I'm a big fan of Slack and all the sharing that happens. I know oftentimes people, when they think of Slack, they think of kind of work, more like corporate and work settings, but they're literal ecosystems, right? Living in Slack channels, just around sharing resources, right? Everything you can think about that you're having issues with your business, maybe not just tech, right? But finding engineers, or maybe you have a product business and you need to find a new manufacturer, or, you need to connect with, PR agency, whatever it may be. It's just finding those, doing the research. They're out there. And I am not ashamed to cold reach out to people on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, you have to do it when you are a entrepreneur. Shame goes out of the window. And it's really about, being bold and leaning really into the mission of what you're trying to build. It's not about you, it's about your vision and the outcome and all the people that you can impact. So, if you've done the research, if you've exhausted kind of the research that you can do on your own, go on Twitter and reach out to people, start conversations there, go on LinkedIn, and find other people in the space and just drop a note. I think that's a very effective way of building community. And then ultimately they will lead you to kind of your tribe and the right sponsors and mentors that you need for your business.
I'm so glad you mentioned Twitter. Awesome. Black people, I feel like are like, we made Twitter.
We drive Twitter.
Ecosystems in Twitter, like #Black Tech Twitter is a real thing. I feel like if you ask a question and then use the #Black Tech Twitter, you're going to get an answer. So putting yourself out there, I think, is huge too.
That's wonderful. And those are items you can do, things people can do right now as soon as they get off of this session. They can use LinkedIn to make those connections. Go to Twitter. Harness the power that Black and brown people have on Twitter. And remember, entrepreneurs, shame is out the window. I love that. So ladies, thank you so much. Any closing thoughts? Nadiyah, would you like to leave off with any closing thoughts for our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're just starting a business or you're still, working hard to keep it alive, just remember that there's a community out there for you, and just be intentional with your search and finding Black businesses that can serve you.
It's wonderful. And Jennifer?
Yeah, I mean, just a few kind of final notes. Don't be afraid to try, something new. So much of what we're doing is trial and error. Entrepreneurship is a journey and a process of optimization, continuous. None of us are experts because the landscape is forever changing, right? So put your products, your business out there. Let, consumers play with it, get that real-time feedback, even if it's messy, right? Even if it's ugly, nothing will better position your business and your product for success, and really beta testing and getting comfortable with making mistakes and listening to feedback, even if it's uncomfortable, and getting creative, right? Getting creative about how you funding, getting creative about, how you get resources when you have, no budget, right? There are a few cities out there. I'm glad, Milwaukee's an example. St. Louis is another example. They're all, we all think of the coasts as the kind of the big tech hubs. The landscape is changing. The tech hubs are emerging everywhere. And a lot of cities are giving grants, non-dilutive, equity-free grants to go to one of these cities and build your company, stay there for a year. So just be open to how you can find resources. So I mentioned Arch Grants in St. Louis, and another resource, because I know, we're going to throw all this information at you and you're like, I don't have the time. I don't have the money, and totally get it. Reach out to your universities. There are students, classes, that can help you, to go through some of your action items or get some of those tasks done. Empowerly internship program. It's a great internship program that connects you with high school and rising college students to help you tackle some of your business goals as well. So you may seem alone, but I'm sure that there are parts of your business when you sit down and that you can some you have to do yourself, but others there are things that you can kind of outsource, and maybe you don't have the funds to hire an agency, but there's certainly people in your community and other resources that you can tap into.
Excellent advice from both Jennifer and Nadiyah. Thank you, ladies, so much for being with us today and for sharing your insight and your experiences. And I want to thank the audience for joining us today, this session of Diversify Your Tech Stack. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Hello again, I'm DUALEH, the Director of Audience Development for Black Enterprise, and that wraps up our 2020 Women of Power Tech Summit. Thank you to all of our amazing speakers. A huge thanks to our sponsors, Fidelity Investments, JP Morgan Chase, United Health Group, American Airlines, Merck, and Walmart. And thank you all for joining us. If you enjoy the summit, remember to share it on social media using the hashtag WPTech. And if you registered for this event on blackenterprise.com, you have access to every single session on demand for the next 30 days. There's still time to register and to invite your colleagues and other women in your network. We hope you'll join us later this month for our virtual C-Suite and Boardroom Equity Summit on September 22nd. And don't forget to tell the men in your lives about Black Men Excel, the #1 conference celebrating the excellence of Black men, which is back in person on October 12th through the 14th in National Harbor, Maryland. Thanks again and have a great day.